like don't eat carbs or some kind of jiu-jitsu tournament. I didn't know what that was.
Oh, dude, I ate 800 calories a day. It felt like a lot of food.
It's like, I'll make Coke healthy. Like,
yeah.
And
welcome everyone to another episode of Elbows Tight Podcast. It's your host, Travis. Today I have a fantastic guest in Alex Maclin. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing great, man. I just rolled, so I'm good.
yeah. I know. I was talking about this with one of my friends, and I've mentioned to you before, press and record, that I've known you, or not known you. I've known of you since the Barbell Shrug days back in like 2014, 2015, and I would like to call it like prime, CrossFit days. And then I saw you started doing jiu-jitsu, and I was like, here goes another one. Like here goes someone else that I've known of for a long time that does jiu-jitsu. And I was like, I have to ask Alex to come on and chat, man. So thank you so much for your time today, dude.
I appreciate it. Yeah. Thank you for having me on. Yeah.
Yeah. So today, what I want to talk about, and we'll just kind of like jump right into it, is once again, we alluded to before, strength and conditioning, nutrition for jiu-jitsu athletes, longevity. I just did a solo episode about longevity in jiu-jitsu, and I think nutrition and your body obviously is like the number one thing to keep you training. But to give a little context to who you are as a person, can you go into who you are and how you got into jiu-jitsu and everything like that?
Yeah. So, well, by trade, by profession, I guess I am an online nutrition coach. So I work with individuals one-on-one to help with their nutrition. I work with a lot of general pop people, but I've also worked with a lot of athletes and stuff like that too. I'm definitely starting to get more into working with jiu-jitsu athletes or just people who like to practice jiu-jitsu, because that's just what I'm into. But yeah, I mean, how I got started, I guess, in jiu-jitsu. So Doug Larson, Barbell Shrug. Yeah. So I used to work for him, obviously, at Barbell Shrug. And he and Andy Galpin were in Austin one year for a conference, Paleo Effects or something like that. And there was a 10 Planet or some kind of jiu-jitsu tournament. I didn't know what that was, but I was watching it. And then, Doug and Andy were like kind of explaining it. I didn't know what was going on. It just looked like two dudes just like rolling around with each other. But I was like, I'm going to try this. And so when I went back home to Memphis, because I was living in Memphis at the time, and Doug was also moving back, and he was like, yeah, you should come train at the school that I'm going to go train at. You should come by. So I did. And yeah, I mean, I got my ass kicked the first day, of course. Like, that's what everybody,
obviously,
like by like 125-pound girls, like just absolutely just demolishing me, just mauling me. Right. And I just remember that first day, man, I was just dead afterward. But then I really started to enjoy it. But I actually hated it, started to hate it though, because the people at my school, like it was a Shark Tank, right? Like, so,
oh, man.
yeah. And I think too, cause I was strong, cause I had come from like a weightlifting background, and now I know actually why they put it on me, because it was like self-preservation. Like, they felt this like super strong dude, just like, this guy is going to hurt me. So they just put it on me. And I, like at first I was like, man, I'm getting smashed all the time and it's just not enjoyable. And I almost quit. But then I did like a little in-house tournament and I got my ass whooped. And it was a no time limit, submission only white belt tournament. It was just murder.
Oh my God. That sounds like entertainment.
Oh my God. It was, if I was watching stuff like that right now, I'd just be like, it would be just like that. You ever seen that meme with like the lobsters fighting? Like with the, like that was it. That was that tournament. And man, I just got destroyed, and it just really motivated me to really want to get better at jiu-jitsu. And so I just started really training like multiple times a day. And then I just got hooked on it, man. I've just been training ever since, consistently, as much as I possibly can. I competed at white belt, but I haven't competed since white belt. So disclaimer on anything like that. People think I'm like a competitor. I have not competed against white belt. I'm 37 years old. I kept getting injured. So I'm just training. I like to train. That's what I like to do. And so, yeah.
How much did you compete at white belt though? Just that one tournament or?
A couple times. No, I did it. I did two. So my school did a twice a year white belt, blue belt. They call it a kumite, like fucking blood sport. I don't know if can we curse on it? I don't know.
By all means, we're all adults here.
Yeah, okay. I don't know. Yeah, so they called it a kumite, and yeah, it was a white belt, blue belt, no time limit, submission only tournament. And I just remember my first match. It was me and one of my training partners, and we went for 20 minutes.
Oh
And
gosh.
it was just at that point, it was just a nutrition thing. And I got tapped. And then the next round I had to go, and I folded because I was just so exhausted. So I did that twice. I lost, but then I was like, all right, I'm gonna really train hard. And I did like a tournament, like a Fuji tournament, and I did pretty well in there. And then I moved to Austin, and my professor gave me my blue belt after that. So I was after like a year and a half. So yeah,
Dang. Yeah,
yeah.
what was that like moving and finding a new gym? Because obviously someone that's been coaching for a long time, been around some of
Hmm.
the greatest, Travis Mash, Doug Larson, Andy Galpin,
Hmm.
some of these incredible people. What was it like searching for an academy, especially still being like relatively new in jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, I mean, when I moved to Austin, I searched around, just looked for places around me, but I I'm more of a vibe person. If the culture or like the vibe is cool, that's kind of where I'll gravitate towards going. Like I said, I'm not like super into like being some kind of elite competitor or whatever, winning all these IBJJF medals. Like I'm not that.
Me too, bro.
So
Me
it,
too.
yeah, so like people going super competitive like doesn't matter to me. I just want to have a good vibe. And so I stopped in a couple places in Austin. I just didn't feel the people there. I don't know if like jiu-jitsu gym owners listen to this podcast, but like if you're a jiu-jitsu school owner, like you should probably introduce yourself to somebody who's new and comes into the door. Like I went to some places and I just got like no one talked to me, no one asked me what I was doing there. I just
Wow.
like just yeah, it was weird, man. I was like, I'm here to just check it out, and I don't know, it wasn't that. And like when I rolled with some people, because that kind of culture, I feel like it bleeds over to the students too. So when I like rolled with the training, like the students there, people just weren't really like courteous or friendly or anything like that. Like it was just not good. And I stepped in one place, and Gabe, he's a professor at Integrasal. I don't know how to say it in Portuguese, but IJJ Jiu Jitsu in Austin. He was super chill. He was super welcoming, and then everybody there was really cool and welcoming. And the roles were tough. Like, I mean, I walked in there as a blue belt, and I was getting my ass kicked. So like I was like, all right, this is where I need to train. People are cool. The roles are good. The instruction is good. Gabe's a great professor. And that's where I decided to train. So,
Yeah,
and
I think it,
same here in California too. Same thing.
where do you
Yeah.
train now in
Hmm.
California?
Alliance Carlsbad.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, yeah. So it's the same thing. Like I came here to visit like 2 months ago and tried it out. Everybody was super welcoming. Training partners were awesome. The professors, they were super welcoming. The vibe was cool. There wasn't a lot of egos. So again, that's just kind of my thing. More of a vibe guy.
Yeah, I definitely tell people when they're looking for a new jiu-jitsu academy, the first thing I always mention to them is it has to fit your lifestyle. So if they don't have
Hmm.
classes that don't work for you, if they are out of your price range, if they're too far away, these are all very important things, right? And then if you find something that works in that capacity or, hits a couple of the wikis that are important to you, then you always should go drop in first or
Yeah.
watch a class or something like that because there's a lot of elitism in jiu-jitsu,
Hmm.
especially when you like you mentioned like the vibe, you just walk in and like you're sitting there, no one says anything to
Yeah.
you, you're like,
Yeah.
I thought
Like,
this was
who's this
supposed to be like
guy?
for everyone, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
could you, how have you ever ran into that in like the nutrition or the crossfitting, uh the strength and conditioning fitness area also?
Not to my knowledge. I know I've had some friends and stuff like that that go to CrossFit gyms, and then they get kind of like side eyes from people. I think it's just a lot of anytime where there's competition, I feel like there's a little bit of ego involved, right? But I mean, again, it's like, not most 90% of us are just training just because we enjoy training. Like, okay, so what? Some like new purple belt steps in the gym, and you're a 4 stripe purple belt. He doesn't have any stripes on his belt, and he tapped. Who cares? Like, who
Right.
cares? Like, doesn't matter. So
Right.
yeah, just have
So,
fun and train.
ready to spice up your Thanksgiving? As we dive headfirst into the mountains of mashed potatoes and cranberry sauce, let's talk about the unsung hero of the holiday season, the Manscaped Lawnmower 5.0. That's right, it's time to go cold turkey on the old razors and take care of your own turkey leg with the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. Visit manscaped.com, use code ETP20 for 20% off and free shipping, and enjoy Thanksgiving in the style with the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. Gobble, gobble, boys. Listen, Manscaped has been the longest sponsor of the podcast for, I don't even know, 2 years now almost. And it's an incredible partnership. I love everything that Manscaped has sent me. And I am so thankful that they've been the sponsor of the podcast through another holiday season for you guys. Honestly, the Lawnmower 5.0 is a true game changer. They keep refining the design to help more and more men with the dual color LED spotlights for multiple skin tones. And just everything about this just gets better and better. Honestly, all the products you get from them, you can't miss. So the gift of Manscaped doesn't stop there, though. The bundle comes with 2 free gifts: the Manscaped Boxers 2.0 Premium, absolutely love them, and the Shed 2.0 Travel Bag. Get 20% off and free shipping with code ETP20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com using code ETP20. Be thankful this holiday season for the best gift of all from Manscaped. Your balls will thank you. Thank you, Manscaped, for sponsoring this episode. So, how did getting introduced to jiu-jitsu kind of change your view, if it did at all, about kind of like nutrition and conditioning and stuff like that?
Yeah. I don't think it really necessarily changed in the sense of like, I mean, I had been, practicing. I had been doing competitive weightlifting for a
Mm,
while before I had started doing jujitsu. So, I was pretty familiar and already really familiar actually with like how to eat for performance. But some of the things that I just realized that a lot of people just in the martial arts space, I don't know, or just in jujitsu, it's like they don't know how to eat for doing something as high intensity as jujitsu. Um, I don't know. There's a lot of, I feel like there's a lot of like old school, like old wives' tales slash old wrestling coach like advice. Like, this is how you, old sensei coach, this is how you need to eat. Like, I don't know, not to diss like the Gracie stuff, but like Gracie diet or something like that. Like, like stuff like that, where it's just, it doesn't really make too much sense, slash also it's not really based in any kind of evidence like that it's good for performance. So I think there's a lot of people in jiu-jitsu that just don't know how to eat in order to train at their best. And so that's really what I noticed when I stepped into the jiu-jitsu space, was like, wow, like in the CrossFit space, there's still some of that, but like most people are like, now, yeah, we are going to eat carbs, we're going to eat plenty of protein, that kind of stuff. And I feel like in the jiu-jitsu space, it's still like, no, don't eat carbs, or like fasting is good and like stuff like that. Like, what? Like,
yeah.
so,
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot of uh, tribalism, I guess you could say, like we mentioned beforehand too, when it comes to nutrition, especially in the jiu-jitsu space. Like, people look at their professors or a black belt and
mhm,
expect them to have knowledge about every aspect of training when it comes to jiu-jitsu, and that's not
mhm,
always necessarily true. Like, some people are very
right.
fortunate to be knowledgeable in some things, with their normal day jobs, or the person they were before they took over this school. But it's you can't we you can easily be led the wrong way in this space,
Totally.
because we put like higher ranks and certain people within the community on such high pedestals. When they say something, we're like, that has to be true. Like, he's been doing jujitsu and he's been successful at jujitsu for so long, like that means it has to be true, which couldn't be further
Mhm.
from the truth.
Right,
how do you
right,
how do you
right.
navigate things like that when you see it like online as a coach, and you're trying to provide as much value to people, true value as people, evidence-based, science-based, and stuff like that? How do you navigate when you see these things on the internet? You're like, dude, that's not gonna help anyone.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because if I don't know the person, if you just tell them no, that's complete BS and bullshit. It's like they it's going to be hard for them to accept that, and you're kind of just telling them that they're wrong to their face. So um if someone asks me my opinion, I definitely will tell them. what I think about a certain topic and what is actually based in evidence. But my thing is like, hey, if it's working for you and you like it, then I'm just gonna let you go do it. And you gotta, and once you figure it out, if that's not working for you, then maybe come ask me, and I can help you. Like there's a woman at my current academy, and she was telling me how she's going like carnivore, and I'm like, okay, cool. And she says she feels better and her inflammation has gone down and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, cool. And I kind of like, hey, just make sure, you get enough, vitamins and minerals and stuff like that. But I didn't try to like say, no, you can't do carnivore, you need carbs or stuff like that. Cause again, I don't know what her reasons necessarily are. And I just try to let people do what they want to do, and then if they need help and they ask me, then I'll give them my advice. So
What are some common mistakes that you see just like Gen Pop practitioners make when it comes to nutrition and, wanting to
mhm,
eat better? They have, because a lot of people have good intentions. They're just
right.
not well informed. Like, what are some common things that you see that people can change that they might not even be realizing that they do?
Yeah. I mean, this is going to sound crazy, but because I know we have such a problem with people being overweight in our society and stuff like that. But if we're talking about athletes or just people who do something like jujitsu, a lot of people don't regularly eat enough. They'll eat enough overall. Like it's different if you say Monday through Thursday you're on a diet, right? And then the weekend hits and you're just like, man, I'm gonna eat like beer and pizza, drink beer and pizza, man.
I
Like
love it. It's
it's
my favorite.
yeah, no, that's totally different because you're getting the calories overall, and you may be in a place where you may be even having trouble with your weight, like gaining weight. But the issue is that you are not necessarily consistently feeding yourself enough. And that actually probably is more one of the issues of a lot of people I see, especially people I coach, is that they are very inconsistent with their food intake. Again, it's like it'll be famish and then like feast. And then it's overall it kind of averages out, but from a performance perspective, your body doesn't really perform well that way. Like for example, like if you train like Monday through Friday, but then you're trying to undereat, or you're maybe not eating consistently enough, you're going to have big swings in your training. Like you're not going to be consistent in how you feel in the gym, and then your training is going to suffer. Your overall long-term progress is going to suffer. Whereas if you ate consistently enough, you would actually probably recover better. You would perform better. You probably not overeat, because again, a body that is fueled and has enough food probably is not going. You're probably not going to like reach for the chips in your pantry at like 2 a.m. like right, like that's what happens. So I think that's one of the biggest things, and it can be tough for people to kind of understand that, because a lot of people just they don't know how much they eat. They don't track their food. They don't pay attention. And I'm not saying you got to like track your food forever, but you gotta at least like pay attention to some things. You got to do it for a little while, or be mindful of what you're doing, so you can get a good idea of like what actually is happening versus what you think is happening.
Yeah, that's one thing that when I was when I was coaching like weightlifting and CrossFit, people would come to me like, "Oh man, like I work out 2-3 times a day. Yeah, I'm in
Mm-hmm.
a calorie deficit, I think." It's like, well, do
I
you actually
think,
know? Like you
yeah.
have to, just because like you feel like you're eating enough, unless you're actually weighing, measuring, and tracking, like you
Mhm.
don't truly know. And luckily nowadays there's some great apps out there. I started using Macro
Yeah.
Factor. Like
Oh
I
yeah, macro
love it.
factor is great. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's
Mhm.
ran by a bunch of really smart people in the
Yeah,
industry
Greg
and stuff
Knuckles.
like that. Yeah, and
Mhm.
I don't know. Another thing that people probably don't realize is they probably typically don't eat enough protein too, from what I've seen
Correct.
as well. And it's one of those things. Is like once you start tracking, you start realizing like, oh, dude,
Mhm.
I ate 800 calories a day. It felt like a lot of food.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
How can people get? How can, besides tracking, how can people get more calories in their day with like like simple things that, like before, after training, or
Mhm.
while at work or something like that, in order to kind of help out with their overall goals?
I mean, I'm a big fan of, honestly, I'm a big fan of, I mean, planning ahead is like really important. You know, just having some kind of plan. And I'm not saying like you got to write out every single thing that you want to eat for the whole week, but just having some kind of plan that's why I like things like apps and track like Macro Factor or Chronometer. I use Chronometer, but just so you can plan out your day in some aspect. You know, I'm a big fan of keeping things easy. If people follow me on Instagram, they see like I do a lot of stuff from like Costco that's already like pre-made and pre-done. So I try to make it as easy as possible, because I think one of the most difficult things people have about eating is that they just say like, I don't have enough time, because they try to make it harder than it needs to be. Like they try to sit there and make some really complicated recipe, or they try to spend 4 hours on a Sunday, like meal prepping and putting things into individual containers. And some people need to do that. I mean, that's their lifestyle or whatever. But I mean, if you can make it easier, like if you can go to the local grocery store and pick up a rotisserie chicken that's already cooked, and then you can make different things out of it. You know, throw it on some greens for a salad. Boom, you got a salad. Like that's make it easy. Don't try to make it harder than it needs to be.
Yeah. So how do you know, there's obviously a lot of, especially on Instagram, like you mentioned, there's a lot of people out there giving out nutritional advice, and some of it, you know, obviously is a little bit of like fear mongering and stuff like that in order to get them to buy certain supplements or their products and stuff like that. How do you feel about prepackaged meals? Like if that's all a person eats, like should they worry about that? Like, is this typically they have more sodium? Do people need to worry about their sodium intake, inflammation from these foods or whatever? Like how should they navigate that?
Yeah, I mean, I look at everything flexible on a spectrum of flexibility when it comes to food, right? Like I look at things like, hey, these are foods that I want to eat most often and regularly because they make me feel good and they fit my goals and they are healthy. They make me feel healthy. And then there are foods that I want to eat sometimes, like maybe they're in the middle. And then there are foods that maybe, you know, they don't serve my goals that much, especially in large amounts. So I don't eat those foods like often or in large amounts, right? And so that's what I think about like all foods. It's how I look at any kind of food. Again, if you follow me on Instagram, I'm very transparent about like what I eat, because I want people to see that like, yo, I'm like a healthy guy. And this is how I eat, you know, like for breakfast, I'll have, you know, hard-boiled eggs, and then I'll have some like chicken sausages, and then I'll have fruit, and then I'll have an Uncrustable, you know, like, you know, cause like for me, like that is an easy way for me to get some calories. It's an easy way for me to get some carbohydrates. I eat probably close to 3,700 calories a day. So if I'm trying to eat lots and lots of whole foods, I can do it, but I'm going to probably be very full and uncomfortable. And that's my goal. So again, I look at it in that spectrum. I don't eat Uncrustables for every single meal 20 times a day. And that's not where all my carbohydrates are coming from, but I will have one because it's a very easy, convenient source of carbohydrates for me. But I'm also going to eat things like vegetables. I love vegetables. I love fruits. I love lean proteins. I love all that stuff. So I'm going to eat a lot of that too, but I'm going to throw in some things that also align with my goals. And so the same thing goes with like, you know, stuff that maybe it's pre-made. Stuff that's pre-made is probably going to have a little bit more sodium and things like that. But again, for me, it's not an issue. If you have an issue, then maybe you cut back on that and you don't do as much of that type of food. But that's not to say that you can't do it at all. So maybe it's like, hey, I'm really busy this week and the kids have got all these soccer practices I got to take to. So let's go get something pre-made like from Costco and heat like some, you know, pot roast or whatever. And then now we have dinner and we're not stressing about it, but we're not doing that necessarily all the time, right?
All right, Elbros, I've got a new sponsor and it couldn't be a better fit for you guys. And let me tell you, it's a sick product. Grapple Guard Body Wash is the partner on and off the mats against terrible skin infections and your ticket to ultimate freshness. Guys, you know the deal. Hours of sweaty hot murder yoga, like we like to call it, calls the need for a thorough cleanup. Grapple Guard Body Wash is an antifungal, antimicrobial superhero ready to smash any skin critters before they become an actual problem. This isn't just a soap, though. It's a secret weapon tailored to grapplers like us. But here's the real kicker. Grapple Guard isn't just about smelling great and feeling refreshed after you struggle snuggle. It's a rear naked choke to infections like ringworm, staph infection, and more, like I said. Listen, Grapple Guard isn't just your usual jiu-jitsu body wash either. These guys went to great lengths to make sure these ingredients were many belt levels above the soap you currently use for infection defense. Now, here comes the best part. If you're one of the fast ones to snag this deal, you'll get 25% off plus free shipping within the US. It's a deal that's more exciting than your first sub. Head over to grappleguardsoap.com and enter code ElbowsTight25 to secure your discount. This is more than just cleaning up. It's a grappling experience you won't want to miss. Thank you, Grapple Guard, for sponsoring this episode. I think one thing that you're alluding to there is like barrier of entry. Like the lower the barrier of entry to eat something to like get your nutrition in and to hit your goals is like the best thing, right? Like people shouldn't be feeling bad because they want to eat these things. It's like give yourself some grace and allow yourself some, because I definitely think once again, coming from the CrossFit stuff like that, people are so binary a lot of the times when it's like, I want to eat healthy, I can't eat this. It's like, well, there's moderation. It's like, what are some common misconceptions you hear from like especially jiu-jitsu athletes when it comes to nutrition?
Oh, like carbs are bad. Like
really?
Like I hear this all the time.
That's weird.
I hear this all the time. I hear it all the time. Like, oh, like don't eat carbs, or I mean, because low carb is the in thing. It's been the in thing for a few years now. You got now, and it's so crazy. It's gonna flip. Trust me. Like, yeah, it's gonna flip back because now it started off with keto or just paleo, right, or low carb, and then it became keto, and now it's carnivore. Like it just becomes more and more extreme. But people are still very fearful of carbs and think that like carbs are the absolute devil. And so I hear that a lot in the jiu-jitsu space, which again, from an evidence from how, your body works, like carbs actually will help you in jiu-jitsu. Now, there are definitely people that, there's nuances. There's definitely people who cannot have as many carbohydrates because maybe they have, type 2 diabetes or whatever. But for the vast majority, if you're healthy, again, carbs are not bad, and it really just depends on the type of carbs. Like there's a big difference between a fucking Twinkie and then an apple. There's a huge difference between that. Like, do they even sell Twinkies anymore?
I don't know. I mean, I would eat them if I found them. I'll tell you that.
Oh
my son, my kids got the like little packets of chocolate chip muffins from Costco downstairs right now. Those things are like crack, dude. I gotta be careful with those.
So even my example, like I eat an Uncrustable, but like again, I will also have fruits and vegetables too. So I think that's the thing where it's like people look at it as black and white. Like I can't have this type of food, and this food is the only food that I can eat and it's healthy. But what happens with that when we have that black and white thinking is that as soon as we stray from the I had my donut or whatever, I'm being bad, and so what's the point? / that's where we fall into that, like, fuck it, like I already messed up, let's just go slam pizza and burger and beer and like let's just full send it, right?
I already had an Oreo today.
That is literally what happens, and that's, I would probably say 99% of the people that I work with, like that's their biggest thing, is that they have this like black and white thinking about food. And so in the jiu-jitsu space, I mean, it's again, it's like things like carbs, they're bad and don't eat them, but they actually can really help your performance. Like, I mean, this is me personally, not saying everybody should do this, but like I eat like 500 to 600 grams of carbs a day.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, a lot of my, so I coach some jiu-jitsu athletes, and I have them, I mean, they train a lot. So I have them eating a high amount of carbs, and they weren't eating very much carbs before. And they were like, oh no, I'm afraid of carbs. They're going to make me fat. I started gradually increasing their carbs, and they're like, man, I am fucking smashing everybody, because that's the fuel that your body is going to use for something high intensity like jiu-jitsu. So
How can people develop a healthy relationship with food and dieting and all these things so they don't develop that binary, that black and white in their nutrition endeavors?
I mean, it takes time. Honestly, I mean, not to plug myself, but I mean, getting a coach, getting a coach,
I mean,
somebody
that's why you're here,
who,
Alex.
yeah, I know, right? Like, but like getting somebody to help you with that is definitely something that will help. Now, there are definitely coaches out there that can really create some very disordered eating patterns with people, but I think the biggest thing, if I would say, is like, aside from getting a coach, is again that concept of flexibility, not looking at foods as healthy, unhealthy, good, bad, right? Looking at foods as a spectrum of choices, and I can make a better choice or I can make a worse choice or whatever, but it's not like a bad choice. It's not like I can't ever do it. It's just, hey, if I'm going to, let's just say, I'm going to, like, I don't know, Chick-fil-A. I like Chick-fil-A, right? Um, I could go and order, for breakfast, like a chicken biscuit and fry and tater tots or whatever. Okay, that's something I can order. But how can I make this a more aligned meal that is better for me? Well, okay, maybe I still want the chicken biscuit because it's fire. But maybe I don't get the hash browns, and maybe I substitute like a fruit instead. Or even this, I love this actually too with a lot of people, because we talked about like how people don't necessarily sometimes eat enough um, consistently. Um, and so I'll be like, hey, what if you still got the hash browns and the Chick-fil-A chicken biscuit, and then you added a small cup of fruit there? Now you've added something that is still like very healthy and nutritious, and it makes this meal so much more complete and so much more satisfying. And you're not sitting there restricting, but you're adding to it and making it a more something more probably you're likely to do in the future. So I love that concept of like, hey, we don't need to restrict anything. We can practice some restraint, or we can add something that is also healthy into the mix. And now that we have this meal, like, yeah, I had this, and then I had this too, and it's like something like we can be really proud of.
How do you navigate through the different diet restrictions that people do have, right? Because like you mentioned, some people are carnivore, some people are vegan, vegetarian, pescatarian, like all
Mhm.
these different diets. How do you help and then like promote good eating in each one of them? Do you like give suggestions to them, like, hey, you may be vegan, but you're missing out on this much protein, or right? Because protein is probably the biggest thing people talk about with veganism.
Mhm.
How do you suggest or guide people to making the right choices?
Yeah, I mean, again, like, I'm not, my main thing is, hey, if you want to eat this way, if it's working out for you, I always just ask, like, hey, how's that working out for you? And if they're like, oh yeah, I love it, I feel great, okay, cool. And then if they if they're like, if they ask me something about it, I'm just gonna give them, what I think, and an education aspect to it. So if you go from, like, the vegan example, and it's like, yeah, I love eating vegan. I feel so much better. And then, maybe they ask me like, yeah, I'm not really recovering all that great though. So I'm like, okay, well, what's your protein intake like? Well, I'm only getting like 50 grams of protein a day. Okay, well, here's some options that you can eat to increase your protein intake on a vegan diet, because I'm not gonna sit there and try to change them
Mm,
right away. I mean, I asked him like, hey, what's the reason why you're eating vegan, and do you think that's sustainable for you? And if they say, yeah, no, I love eating vegan and I want to eat this way, then I'm not gonna fight them on that. I think that's like one of the worst ways you can actually coach
right.
somebody. Yeah. And so again, I'm like, all right, here's how you can make this work, right? Or here's some options that you can do. So same thing with any kind of, like, some people on any kind of special diet that they want to be on. Try to make it work, because almost everything you can make work. Now, there will definitely be situations where, maybe you want something and it doesn't really align with how you're eating. And then you have to make that kind of decision. But until you get there, if you can make it work and you enjoy it, then that's what you're going to stick to. And that's probably the most important thing about nutrition is there are for infinite amount of people, there are infinite amount of diets. And so it has to be the diet that works for you as an individual.
So how do you prep? Well, first of all, weight cutting in jiu-jitsu. There's a lot of, back and forth that some people say
Mhm.
it's okay to weight cut for jiu-jitsu is if you do it correctly, and some people say like just go compete at your natural body weight. How do you approach weight cutting for jiu-jitsu athletes?
Yeah. So honestly, full disclaimer, I don't compete. So like, but I do.
But you help
I am.
jiu-jitsu athletes, right?
Yeah, I am familiar. I am familiar with like. So actually, my first like real not in-house tournament, I did cut for that. But I was already familiar with cutting, like just from weightlifting. But so and again, it depends on the person, right, and their goals. I would generally say if you're a white belt and it's your first tournament, and I would just go in as you are and just compete. And then knock your first one out. If you stomp everybody, fantastic. You're probably sandbagging. If you if you get whooped, then and it was truly like a size thing. Like for example, maybe you're 180 pounds and you're in that weight class, and then they're much taller than you or whatever, then maybe, yeah, and if maybe you have more body fat, you could stand to lose. Okay, cool. Like maybe your next one go down in the weight class. But I wouldn't, if you're just brand new to competing, I wouldn't cut. And I would say that's even just people weightlifting or powerlifting. Like I remember I coached a lot of weightlifters and powerlifters, and they always wanted to cut for their first meet. I'm like, what do you think about just going in and just competing as you are? It's just you and yourself. It's not like there's nothing to prove here. So, but I mean, obviously if you're more competitive, then it may make sense to just keep at a weight class where you can be the most competitive. So
I mean, I liked weight cutting, or I liked being a 77 kilo because my numbers looked way better for a 77 than an 85.
yeah. Oh yeah. I competed at both, like, well, actually I competed at 77, 85, and then up to 94 at one
Oh
point.
wow.
My numbers were not pound for pound best at 94, but ultimate all time at 94. I was on the gains for sure. But yeah, no, I mean, I would cut down. I would try to compete at 77, and honestly, I didn't really feel great. I always had to diet a lot. That's the other thing you got to consider too, is that if you're a jiu-jitsu athlete and um, you're not able to maintain that weight or close to that weight range, then it's probably not going to work for you to compete there, because you're going to be constantly trying to diet and under fueled, and you're not going to perform as well. You may open yourself up for more injury. So it's just not, you gotta kind of see where you're naturally kind of gonna hover at, and then see if you can compete there too.
So how can people make the first step into tracking their food or taking their nutrition a little bit more seriously, because it can be a
Mhm.
very intimidating task
Right.
to be honest with yourself, honestly, because that's what you're
Hmm.
ultimately doing. You're being honest with yourself, and you're realizing, you're like, holy shit, man, I all I ate today was processed carbohydrates that
Hmm.
probably aren't the best for me. How can people open up that door to self-improvement?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, there's apps like Macro Factor or Chronometer, but they can be still a little bit intimidating to get into. A lot of people out here, they don't like to be on their phones a lot, or they just don't know how to use the apps. Honestly, I think if you want to just build some self-awareness, if you've never tracked your food ever before, um, just take a picture of what you're eating, man.
Mm,
Just
that's
you
smart. Yeah.
have, yeah, you just have food. And I'll do that with clients, and I'll just say like, hey, like, why don't you just take a picture of what you're eating, and then at the end of the day, look at it and see, all right, because I'm a firm believer that most of us know, like, hey, I didn't eat a single vegetable today. Like, what is going on? Like,
Sometimes I look back and I'm like, when was
yeah,
the last time I ate a vegetable?
yeah, like, or like, oh man, like I didn't eat any kind. Like all of my food is just like, you know, fast food or whatever. So if you can just get some kind of awareness about what you're doing, then you can start to make small actionable changes, and you don't have to. And this is another thing people do is they try to night and day it, right? They try to look at their diet and like, oh, like I got to completely eat clean and turn it around like yesterday. But you don't. I mean, you can, but that's often not going to last. It's not going to be sustainable. So it's like making small changes. So for example, if you realize that you don't eat any vegetables the day or fruits or whatever, hey, like, why don't you just add a banana to one of your meals, or some broccoli or whatever? Like, it doesn't matter. Just, you see that there's a gap there, and then you can make that small change, and then it can become a habit if you can continue to do it, and then you can make more changes and more changes over time. But I think like even most people, again, like I said, like they eat, very poor quality. Even just doing that, just taking a picture and then trying to improve the quality first, I think that's a very good step for most
When you
people.
say quality, does organic, non-GMO, gluten-free, all these labels on these foods, does it honestly matter, or is it for like a small subject of clients?
I mean, if you have celiac, obviously gluten-free is something that you have to pay attention to. But a lot of stuff is just marketing, because again, like there's a really cool account guy that I know. His name is Matt. It's Cheat Day Design. He makes these little TikToks of how to make like junk food healthy, and he'll make
I know who that.
you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, it's like, I'll make Coke healthy, like
Yeah.
and yeah, and I mean, that's the thing.
I'm constantly sending my wife those.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of food marketing. So like, there's definitely merit for some things like organic or whatever, but a lot of it's just food marketing. And I try with clients, it's like, hey, we're in the weeds here, or we're like, we're majoring on the minors here. Like, you don't eat any vegetables right now. Let's not worry about whether they're organic or non-GMO or whatever. Let's eat a piece of fruit or something. Like, that's it. And then once you have that down, then we can start, worrying about the other stuff. It's like, I don't know. It's like Jiu-Jitsu, people trying to do something like crazy, like, inversion type shit, and then they don't even know how to hip escape. Like, come on, like let's
get the basics.
Let's get the basics down first before you try to do some kind of crazy Imanari roll into a figure 4 leg lock, whatever. Like, let's get the basics first. So,
with the holiday season approaching, our sponsor Waterboy is here to help you prepare for those nasty holiday hangovers. There's nothing worse than feeling like the Grinch while everyone else in the family is rocking around the Christmas tree. Waterboy is a hydration powder scientifically formulated to cut your hangover time in half. There are other hydration packs on the market, but nothing even comes close to fighting those Sunday scaries like Waterboy. With 0 sugar and 3 times the electrolytes as Liquid IV, your hangover doesn't stand a chance. Unlike their competitors, Waterboy added specific ingredients beyond just hydration to help with that nausea, anxiety, and your fatigue. We all know that hydration alone isn't enough to help after a holiday bender, and it's just not for you. Waterboy's hangover recovery formula makes a thoughtful stocking stuffer or a fantastic gift for your loved ones. Show them you care about their well-being this holiday season. For this holiday season, our listeners get 15% off their entire order with our exclusive link at waterboy.com/elbowstight. Recently, Waterboy released the new grape flavor, and I must say it is by far my favorite. I'm usually not a fan of grape flavored drinks, but grape is by far my favorite flavor. And being a dad now, I'm a super lightweight. I hate to say it, but give me 3 beers, especially during the holiday season, and I'm tipsy dancing on the countertops. And thankfully, with Waterboy, the morning hangovers after a holiday bender or just 3 beers is gonna save my life. So join hundreds of thousands of people already trust Waterboy as their hangover cure. It's the time to stop dealing with that anxiety alone. For a limited time, my listeners get 15% off discount with our link at waterboy.com/elbows tight. That's 15% off at waterboy.com/elbows tight. It's time to hydrate this holiday season. Thank you, Waterboy, for sponsoring this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know one thing that's very intimidating too, especially with my wife and I, both of us, we track our food and, we try to eat as clean as possible. One of the big concerns we always have is the cost of food, especially in an inflationary period right now where
Hmm.
food is so much more expensive. What are some ways people can buy food? Because you mentioned, you do the Costco hauls and
Yeah.
stuff like
Bulk is
that.
great. Yeah.
What are some ways that people can lower the cost but keep hitting their goals?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I love bulk buying in bulk. Costco, they do have a lot of expensive, pre-made stuff, but again, they're bulk, just vegetables, meats, things like that. And of course, you're gonna have to cook it, so you're trading time for money. But buying in bulk is a really solid strategy. Buying things in season is a good strategy. Like if you buy fruits and vegetables, just like make sure they're in season or on sale and stuff like that. They're definitely lower costs, like proteins. Things like you can still get good quality, high protein. Things like ground beef or chicken breasts or stuff like that are again, you don't have to buy like steak or like whatever, or like the most expensive fish that you can. No, you don't need to do that. Like, man, one of my favorite meals is poor man's poke. I call it poor man's poke. I just take like a can of tuna, some rice, and a little bit of like guacamole, and then pour hot sauce on it. And that's
Yeah.
like one of the cheapest meals, like straight out of college meals. But I'll crush it, man. I don't care, man. Like, so stuff like that. It is expensive these days. Actually, I wrote a post about I need to bring that post back or whatever, or update it. But yeah, like how to eat on. I did one on how to eat on $50.
Oh,
And so I built out. And it's on my Instagram, but I built out like how to eat on $50, this many calories, like, and then I went to Walmart and mapped it out. So yeah. But it's possible. But that was 2 years ago, so I don't know. It might be like 75 now.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, yeah.
After being in the industry for so long and around such incredibly smart people, what has one thing that has changed your mind over the years that you used to be a firm believer in, but now you're like, I don't really know if that's necessarily true anymore?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know. I think just being around a lot of people that I just see have pivoted or just done different things. Nobody's got their shit figured out, man.
Right. Yeah. It's always
everybody's
changing.
still fig- everybody's still figuring out stuff. We're constantly learning. Everybody is, constantly adapting. That's like jujitsu, right? Like you start off, you may love playing half guard and deep half and stuff like that as a purple belt, and then when you get to brown belt or black belt, you're like, man, I don't ever play that. And now I have a higher viewpoint of things, and yeah, everybody's just constantly evolving. And I think a lot of people think that everybody's got it figured out, or you see on social media, like, oh, nobody, everybody's still learning. So yeah.
Where do you go as you as a coach? Where do you go for your information to further your knowledge? Do you read just white papers, WebMD? Like, where do you get all your information from?
There's some really good stuff like from people. I mean, Lane Norton's great. If he takes a very like evidence based approach on things in terms of like nutrition. Alan Aragon is awesome. Greg Knuckles, who created Macro Factor, he's always posting like studies and talking about them and reviews and journal article reviews and things like that. Yeah, those are some really high level people, I think, in the nutrition space. Yeah, so those are some people I definitely look at.
How much time do you spend researching and then kind of like furthering your knowledge? Is it like a thing that you throw in like your daily tasks, or is it kind of like when you see something that grabs your eye, you're like, oh, let me look further into that?
Yeah, mostly that. Like, can I see something that grabs my eye? Because there's always new stuff coming out. Like, I mean, for the most part, like I would say the basics of nutrition are pretty set, like the basic stuff, but there's usually other things like optimization of, one thing right now I think a lot of people are is carb intake and stuff like that, and just nutrient timing. There's always a lot of information coming out about that because there's a lot of studies and stuff like that, or like gut health and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, when things come up, and I'll catch it, but I think it's important to, like, just obviously keep learning and staying ahead of the curve. So there's definitely groups that still do like certifications, and actually another guy that I follow is, like, his name is Sam Miller. He's awesome. He talks a lot about like effects of like hormones and metabolism and all that kind of stuff, and that can get like really high level. Like, again, like most people don't really need to get that high level. And if I start like spitting out all this stuff to, like, people who have no idea like how to eat, and they're going to be like, I don't know. Again, it's like white belts, like trying to teach them something that, a high level black belt is doing. Like, they're not going to know. So
Yeah,
it's
I
going to
follow
overwhelm
like
them.
RP Strength, Dr. Israel,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
like
yeah. Israel
Derek from
Tell,
More
he's
Place,
awesome.
More
Yeah,
Dale.
yeah. Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
sometimes they get so into the weeds. I'm like, I'm losing right now.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's like, I'm there. This is so far over my head, but I love their entertaining factor. It's like, I just keep watching it. But yeah, there's like my knowledge of nutrition sometimes is like,
Yeah.
nope, no
Yeah.
idea. Cause those guys get deep into it.
I think where I'm at this point in time, though, like, I have like enough knowledge, obviously, of like basic nutrition and understanding how nutrition works. But the challenging part for me as a coach is how to work with people and how to help
Mhm.
people get through past some of these like mental barriers and mindset barriers that, that's what you can tell somebody all day long, like, this is what's happening, but that doesn't mean that they're going to change it. Like, they have to get through whatever is up here in their head a lot of times to actually create some true change.
So how do you do that? How do you help people with that?
I mean, there's a lot of conversations that we have to have, and you have to go into, like, motivation and reasons why and things like that, and then maybe even getting them to see, and talking to them and asking them questions about like how their life is and what do they want, what their values are. Because I've actually had some clients that, they come to me and they're like, man, I want to lose 20 pounds. And then, we're trying to go for it and they just not doing anything. And then we have this conversation and it's like, well, what's the actual reason why you want to lose this weight? And like, what's actually important to you? And they start to realize, like, man, like, yeah, I want to do it, but it's not actually what's like truly important to me, or rather the way that I think that I need to do it. I can't do that because it doesn't align with my values and my lifestyle, my priorities. And that's really where we have to figure out, because if it doesn't align, if we do something that's not in alignment with your values and priorities, you're not going to stick with it. And it's not going to be something sustainable. You're going to, yeah, maybe you can discipline and willpower yourself to drop those 20 pounds, but once that runs out, you're going to be right back to where you started. It's not going to be an actual change.
So when it comes to your jujitsu journey, do you watch like instructionals, or do you just simply, because the way I feel about it is I don't necessarily like watch instructionals or a lot of like jujitsu content, because I'm still having such a hard time learning what's already going on in class a
Yeah,
lot of the times.
yeah,
I don't
yeah, yeah.
necessarily do that, but there are some things out there like I don't know if you know who Jordan Pressinger is.
Oh, I
Yeah,
love that. I love him, man. Jordan
yeah,
does
so
jiu-jitsu.
yeah.
He's the man.
So he has like the jiu-jitsu theory course, which I have and I always
Mhm.
promote. It's like that thing is phenomenal. And now he has like the wrestling for BJJ and stuff like that. Like things like that where it's I could jump in and out of, and like there's tangible things for me to take right over to practice. I
Mhm.
love things like that, but like an instructional where it's typically a step by step thing, I'm like, dude, there's no way I'm going to be able
Mhm.
to implement this in class.
Mhm.
By the way, if you guys want a discount on those courses, links down in my description. But but how do you approach learning outside of jujitsu? Especially when someone that works with clients, and your free time outside of the mats is very busy as well.
Mhm. No, I I love Jordan does jujitsu stuff. I'm a very big conceptual person.
Mm,
If I understand the why, and this is something too, like with my clients, I try to teach them the why of things, right? So if I understand why I'm doing something, then I can one, more likely to do it, but two, I don't need to know the steps. If I know, like for example, actually with him, with the something I really learned from him that just stuck with me. I was like, oh, this makes so much more sense now. It was about guard, right? If I'm trying to keep guard on somebody, I don't want them to be split, right? Like I want either two of my legs like either outside, or I want two of my legs inside, right? Their legs, or playing butterfly or
right.
like a close guard, right? I don't necessarily, I mean, I play half guard, but I don't necessarily, that's not necessarily somewhere ideal because they're halfway past my guard. And so once I started to understand that concept, my guard retention got so much better because I'm like constantly, like, if somebody gets past one leg, I'm trying to get the other leg back in, or I'm trying to get both legs on the outside. I'm not playing this like where I'm trying to get them to come through the middle or whatever, stack, whatever. So I'm a really big conceptual learner. So those are the types of things that I like to look at. I don't like to look at things that are, yeah, okay, first we're gonna do this and then we're gonna do this. I'm not gonna remember those steps. But if you explain why I need to keep my elbows in, right, because I don't want them to occupy that space, then I'm gonna do that. And then every time I'm in a bad position, I know keep the elbows in, frame, and these are why I need to do that. So I don't need to know the steps. So
Yeah, keep the elbows tight, everyone.
yeah, I gave you. No, but that was, man. The like Jordan. Shout out to Jordan, man. The T-Rex arms. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
found him
He's
when
a
I
good
was
buddy
like
of mine now
yeah.
because of this.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
no. When I found his page, I was a blue belt, and I had never understood why, like, or the concept of hip escape and like how you do it and why. Like I'd always thought, oh, you just bridge, right? No, but it's like, yeah, it's a bridge, but it's like you're trying to get a frame in a space to like get your hips out so that you can reestablish your guard. I just thought you were just supposed to bridge. I didn't know like why the concept of that stuff is important, but it had never been taught to me. It was just like,
Yeah.
oh, you do fucking shrimp rolls down the mat, like whatever, like okay. But then when you come to do it live, you don't understand why it's not working because I don't have a firm understanding of the concept of why that actually works.
Yeah, I think understanding the why and the conceptual side of it has changed me a lot
Mm-hmm.
recently. Also because one shout out to Jordan too for this is like uh, now I pay much more attention like inside position, not letting people grab
Yeah,
my head.
inside
Right?
position. Hey, grab your head. Yeah,
Dude, like now I'm
yeah,
always like sinking my head to the mat, like you are not grabbing my head.
yeah,
Things like
yeah.
that, which are like invaluable. Like they're just
Mm-hmm.
like they just always stick to the back of my head. When you're looking for a coach, what are some things that make a good coach to you?
Like a jujitsu coach or just any
Yeah,
coach or
just
nutrition?
any coach. I mean, jujitsu, sure.
Yeah, yeah. Let's see. I'll just think about because I'm new to the Alliance Carlsbad, but my former coach at IJJ, Gabe. First of all, dude is a monster. Like if you roll with him, man, he was on a video actually with Tyler Spangler. Do you know
Yeah,
Tyler?
yeah, 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 yeah. You sent me that one. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Man, so like Gabe is a monster and rolling with him, I think that's one of the biggest things. Like, are they really good at jujitsu? Like to where I feel like, man, I don't have anything on them. And then how well are they at explaining and teaching? And not just like, oh, teaching them the move and going through the steps, but again, teaching the why this works. I think that's a big thing for me. Um, yeah, I think that's really the big thing for me. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's really it. I like the understanding the why and the concepts. And I also had another really good coach at another school I trained at in Austin. His name is Ryan. He did a lot of nogi leg locks, and like he explained the concepts of why these things work, and that's why I was like able to figure out, oh, like this is what I need to do, and I could be more creative because I understood the concepts more. Yeah.
what makes a good student? to you, like, or a good client?
Hmm. Well, I tell all my clients, I think of a good client will do three things. One, they'll communicate. So, they'll say, "Hey, like I'm having a problem here," or "I need help here," or even if they don't know what they need help with, they'll just be like, I don't know what's going on, but there's I'm having trouble." And that's where the coach then is like, "Okay, well, let's talk through it," right? So communication, and then just being honest with yourself. Like, I think in jiu-jitsu especially, it's hard to be honest with ourselves sometimes because of ego, right? But I think, and this is what my former coach told me, he's like, I always was honest with myself about where my jiu-jitsu actually was and what I needed to truly work on, because it can be hard to realize and be honest with yourself, like, man, I really suck at turtle. Like, for me personally, I suck at any position in turtle. Somebody gets me a front headlock, like, it's bad news for me. Like, and I really need to work on that. And I need to be honest instead of like, nah, it's fine, I don't need to do that, whatever. Instead of ignoring it, because we're not going to get better if we're not honest with ourselves. And then commitment. Commitment meaning, a lot of people think like I'm either going to be all in or all out, but I think commitment is like, regardless of outcome, you're going to show up and you're going to put forth whatever effort you can. And it's not about always like, well, I can't train 5 times a week, so I'm just not going to bother. If I can train 1 time a week, or if I'm injured and I'm just going to show up and watch class, I'm going to do it. That's commitment. And regardless of outcome, regardless of whether we, win a tournament, get promoted, whatever, we're still going to show up and keep training. Doesn't matter what happens. That's the three things, like communication, honesty, and commitment.
How can people set like realistic goals with being honest with themselves? Like, especially when it comes to like nutrition or something like that. Obviously, if
Mhm.
someone's coming to you saying, "I want to lose 100 pounds in 3 months," you're like, that's not realistic. Like, how do you
Yeah,
how
yeah.
can people help set realistic goals for themselves, whether on the mats or off the mats?
Hmm. That's a good question, because yeah, I mean that sometimes people do come and with like, oh yeah, I want to lose 50 pounds or 100 pounds in like a year, or even a year. That's a lot, right? So, um, I think again, it's just kind of figuring out like, okay, what's been your success or progression up until now, right? Like, if you've been making really good progress, and then you've and that's a trajectory that's within reach, okay, fine. But if you haven't been successful in the past and you come to me with this crazy goal, then I think that's where you have to like dial it back in and be like, hey, how successful have I been before and doing what I'm doing? And do I think that I can actually get there? Or is that just like goal that I have because, that's what I want ultimately? So I think it's a lot of like maybe self-awareness and reflection of like, okay, how successful have I actually been before that? So yeah, like if
Heck
I
yeah.
like for me, like not having competed since white belt, I'm not gonna go out there and say, "Yo, bro, I'm gonna win Nogi Worlds this year." like, 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 hey, maybe if I could, like, right, like just sign up tomorrow and be like, I'm gonna go win Nogi Worlds, but like that's probably not gonna happen. But maybe the goal would be like, hey, I'm gonna sign up for this next tournament. And I'm gonna train, as hard as I can, and I'm gonna try to, I'm gonna do it and then see what happens, right? Like that's more a goal, like an action based goal. Like, hey, I'm gonna train for this, like I want to win it. And then if it comes short, okay, that's where the commitment aspects. Hey, I didn't win, but I'm gonna keep showing up. I'm gonna learn, and I'm gonna go for it the next time.
What outside factors like stress play into hitting your nutritional goals, like signing up for a jiu-jitsu competition? There's a lot of stress that comes along with that. How can that
Yeah,
affect someone's nutrition and their goals with their nutrition if they are doing it for, that competition?
like you're talking about like stress, like just
Yeah.
overall.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, or any outside factors that that could impede on their
Hmm.
goals with nutrition as well.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on the person. Some people, again, life throws them shit, and then they're just like, you know what? I have a goal, and I don't care about whatever. I'm just going to keep going for that goal. Um, but some people, yeah, I mean, more stress causes them to, they have to they feel like they need to pull away. Or and I think the biggest thing with that is again, not looking at things along that kind of, I didn't talk about this, but like looking at things like a dial. And this kind of goes back to like the whole flexibility type thing. But let's just say we're preparing for a tournament and we're crushing it, right? Like we're training 6 times a week and our nutrition's dialed in, locked in, or whatever like that. And then our girlfriend breaks up with us, right? She dumps us, and then we're like, man, like I hate everything. um, and then so you're in this position where you're going through a lot of stress, and okay, maybe you can't train 6 times a week, but you've got enough energy into you to go 3 times a week. So you're going to go 3 times a week instead of saying, well, I can't train 6 times a week, I'm just not going to go at all. Or maybe your nutrition is like, hey, I've been tracking my macros and doing all this stuff and whatever, and meal prepping. Maybe I just need to lean in on doing something easier, right? And just focusing on the quality of my food and focusing on some habits that I built, right? And that's the dial, right? Like if we need to dial it back to even something like a 1, it's not a 0. And that's where I think a lot of people let stress get them to. They feel like the stress, it makes them turn it off. And if we turn it off, it's always hard to turn it back on. That's the thing I always hear. It's like, I just got to get back on track. I just got to get back on track. And it's hard to turn it back on when you've been off. So rather than turn it off, just dial it down. And that way, when things chill out, you can dial it back up again. And you don't have to dial it all the way back up to 10. You can dial it up incrementally. Like you can go from a 2 to a 3 to a 4, right?
Absolutely. Well, Alex, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the show today, man. This is a fantastic
I hope I didn't talk too
conversation.
much.
No, that's the whole point of you coming on. No? You did great. Hey, if people want to follow you and check out your coaching and stuff like that, where can people find you at?
Yeah, so they can find me. I'm on my Instagram, Alex Q Maclin, and they can find me on my website, alexmaclin.com. We also have a podcast that me and Lori have called the Live Big, Lift Big podcast. So you can find me, hear me talk some more on there. So, yeah.
Perfect, man. Well, I just wanted to say thank you so much once again. And if you could give
Appreciate
one piece
it.
of advice to a brand new white belt, what would it be?
Quit spazzing. No, just kidding. But for real though, like you're gonna get smushed. So just keep showing up. It gets better. Like I got smushed and now I love it. And you just gotta get past that. We all gonna get smushed. That's the thing. Till you get black, and even black belt people, black belt get
very
smushed.
true.
So,
very true.
So just be in it and don't worry so much about losing. Just keep showing up. Like I said, commitment. Doesn't matter what happens. We're just training. It's not real life.
We're only getting older, so give yourself some grace.
Yeah.
So, hey guys, but thank you guys so much for listening and watching at home. Hope you guys enjoyed our conversation with Alex. Be sure to go follow him. Everything's going to be linked down below. Check out the sponsors and link down below. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching at home. And remember, no oil checks here. Peace.